be on the same page at the same time. I'll make this announcement while you're moving there, and I'll try to do it again later because it's something certainly to celebrate. The collection this morning for Belcourt Lodge, was $4,184.60. Both parts of the donation from the local committee plus the National Council will go towards Belcourt Lodge. Now I invite Shari Gwynn to introduce our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Donna Dunn, a senior consultant with Tecker International, an international consulting practice focused on meeting the special needs of associations managing through change. Donna is a skilled facilitator with an energetic style and a sense of humor. She's worked with clients for 14 years as CEO of 4 associations, including trade, academic, and professional organizations. Prior to becoming an association CEO, she was an association executive in the areas of communication and membership. She has experience in change management, assisting organizational response to ever-changing environmental forces. She's recognized as a leading resource in the area of organizational assessment and organizational change. Active in other professional organizations, she has served on the board of directors of the Iowa Society of Association Executives, the board of the New England Society of Association, and she currently serves on the NESAE Education Committee. Donna is a graduate of the University of Vermont with a bachelor's degree in plant science and a master's degree in agricultural and applied economics. She also has a Master of Science degree in not-for-profit management from the University of Maryland, University College. I present to you, and please welcome Donna Dunn.
Good morning. Good morning. They called me your speaker. Actually, you all are going to do the work right now. And one of the things left out is I have the privilege of working with your executive board and your steering committee as CWL works through this lovely process of planning strategically. And you will be hearing more about that over the next few days and on through the year, I'm sure, as we move forward. This morning, when I said you're going to do the work, and that is in fact the case, whether you're here in the room in Charlottetown or whether you're somewhere else around the country in your groups, because the practice you had last night was for today, to be able for you all to provide your responses and input. So what we'd like to do is here in the room in Charlottetown, if you have one device at each table connected to the website cwl.cnf.io. We don't want too many devices at each table because we might overload the system, and that would be a kind of a disaster for both the live streaming and for the process we're in today. So if one device at each table, please, gets connected. And when you get connected, you should see a screen that looks like this. And what you want to do is click on today's session, which is the town hall meeting. Now, I don't want any of you to panic. The questions will come up when I choose to put the questions up. Not when you choose, when I choose. So don't panic if you don't see the questions immediately. We also have a little time delay for the folks who are not in this room, who are live streaming. So we've built that in. We want to make sure everybody's responses get connected. So do we have one device at each table, connected and ready to go? Can I see hands so I could get a sense of, are we ready? If your table doesn't have anyone with a device, will you raise your hand? We want to make sure every table can respond. Okay, we've got some that are still trying to connect in. If your table does not have anyone, we're going to put somebody at your table to make sure your responses will be put into the system here. Okay, I'm going to move along and folks will catch up. So the first question we ask is, how many people are participating at your location? Now this room here in Charlottetown is obviously, you have a choice of 15 plus, but we're particularly interested in out around the country. And you'll see there's a countdown, so click quickly on the number appropriate. So 40, this is pretty cool. Can you all see the screen up here? We have a lot of folks in small groups out around the country, in groups of 1 to 5. So that's really exciting that we have a lot of participation going on. Another quick poll we want to get a sense of is, what provincial council are you affiliated with? So go now, click, they got 20 seconds. If you're at the tables here, you're going to have to select one, obviously. And we know the Ontario folks are going to want it to be them. 5 seconds left to click that in. So we are distributed in terms of provincial council representation. We're distributed across the country. Why are we doing this right now? Why this town hall here at this conference and live streamed across the country? Why are we doing it now? Because the leadership has said we will be planning strategically about the future of the organization. It's really essential that the input come from all of you. I don't know about you, but there aren't very many things I do that I did do now that I did the way I did it 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and dare I say 50 years ago. A lot of things change. The world around us changes, and one of the things that's very important for your leadership to have is input from you on what's changed, what you'd like to see change, what you really want to see, because you're doing such a great job. I was thinking this morning, what's a good example? And I realized I used to help my grandmother do her laundry with her wringer washing machine. And I thought the coolest thing was she had a clothesline on a pulley so we could stand on the porch and put things on the clothesline and pull it, that was cool. You didn't have to go out in the snow in the winter, right? Now I have a washing machine, which I got a couple years ago, that I put the clothes in and I just tell it what kind of clothes it has, and it decides how much water to put in, it decides what temperature, it does all that stuff for me. A little different from the wringer and the wash tub that we used to use. Things change. Think of telephones. I actually don't have a typewriter anymore. I'm kind of sad about that. It's easier to fill out forms with a typewriter, trust me. So things change and we respond to that environment. So that's why this process and why it's so important to have you involved. Your ideas, your concerns, your input will help the leadership of CWL work on the right direction for the organization. So now, the next question, and no, it's not on your device, I'll tell you when it will be. I know we have anxious folks. Considering at your tables, considering all the League's programs and work, of what are you most proud? And we ask you to use a word or maybe 2 words, keep it as short as possible, but at your table, you have about 2 minutes to talk about that at your table, and then I'll set it up so that you can enter that into the screen, and I'll tell you when. Okay, you will see on your device the questions coming up on your device, and I want you to enter those words, those few words that your group has come up with. One word or a two-word phrase, whatever, and you'll see them coming up on the screen. The larger the word, the more people who have put that in. All righty. Now you may see this change a little bit because there's a delay for the folks who are not in this room, so they may still be adding some things. But I'm going to move this along. If you see those large words, justice, outreach, resolutions, sisterhood, spirituality, service, social, and work. Those are the things that multiple tables and multiple groups of folks put in as things of which you are most proud. So thinking about that, the next question is, in terms of if the league is going out to promote what the league does, emphasize the good works or the spirituality or whatever it is, what should the league emphasize and promote? Again, I ask you at your tables to talk about that in a word or maybe two words. What should the league emphasize and promote? Okay, you can go ahead and start entering the things you are discussing. You won't see this quite as clearly because this time we're putting this in a list. Just so you know, everything that shows up on this screen is being recorded. And we will actually, a small group of us after this session will be getting together and you will get a report on what you've all said. I believe it's tomorrow. So there'll be some repeats in here. Some people don't have the two-word thing down. There's always one in the crowd. I said, you may see a few more items as the folks from around the country put theirs in. We have a lot on fellowship, sisterhood, spiritual care. I saw a number of ones on outreach and service. So we have quite a few things that you would like the League to promote. It's kind of fun to watch them come in. Every now and then you go, oh, I didn't think of that one, but that's a good one. That's a good one. So I'm going to move on to the next question. And again, some time to talk about it at your table before I release the question for you to typing in. But what will be the biggest change, challenge, or opportunity the League will need to respond to in the next 5 years? We want you to think broadly, not a problem you need to solve today, not a problem that you need to solve by December, but in the next 5 years. Change, challenge, or opportunity. When you're ready, you can go ahead, you'll look at your device and you'll see the question there. Go ahead and start putting in your responses.
Do I have to tap on that again? Okay.
Now, while that's been scrolling, I've been trying to do my speed reading thing up here. And there are a lot of similarities. Multiculturalism, inclusiveness, diversity, aging population, particularly aging membership, membership decline, technology. There are a lot of them. While we've got this list scrolling, there are a lot of repeats. And so I think you all are in, there's always some interesting things, leadership development, but certainly membership, certainly technology, certainly the changing demographics in the world around you. The reason we ask this question is because our definition of strategy, when you're planning strategically, our definition of strategy is an organized response to a change in the environment and change to the relevant world in which you operate. So getting a good sense for the leadership of CWL, getting a good sense of where you see that change, the changes you see most important is really incredibly valuable as they work on their plans and your all plans for going forward. So this is all of these, we wouldn't ask these questions if they weren't important. And while it flipped through really fast, I can assure you that all of that information is being collated. So, heard some interesting things from Dr. Beebe this morning, and particularly at the tail end, about some of it's about perceptions. But your next question for your table is, what would you like to see the League do differently than it does now? What would you like to see the League do differently? That could be at the parish level, diocesan level, provincial level, national level. What would you like to see the League do differently? And again, I'm going to give you some time to talk at your tables before I open up the question for you to post your responses. Okay, I'm going to advance it so you can start putting in your responses to what would you like to see the league do differently. Wow, are you watching some of these? There's quite a bit on structure and communication. There's a bunch on paperwork and reports. Where have we seen that already this morning? Technology. Focus on the mission. The one I saw early on, I don't know if you caught it, but it particularly speaks to me right now, and that is humility in implementing change. Did any of you happen to catch that one? It was one of the early ones. For me, it's kind of like, Lord, I want patience and I want it right now, right? You know, it's, but think about that. Humility in implementing change is hard for all of us. You know, I must admit, when organizations I belong to say we're doing something differently, my first question is why? Why? The website, communication, social media. Now here's an interesting thing. One of the challenges of the league is the demographics of the league. So for some of us, social media is a great way to learn what's happening in other parishes, what's happening across the country, get some new ideas, be able to implement some new things. And for other folks, it's like, I don't have a cell phone and I don't care. My son is 32. He is single. He is tired of seeing his friends announce marriages and babies on Facebook. So he stopped. Now we have an extended family of lots and lots of folks, and the way we tell people what's going on is on Facebook, except him. Somebody's got to call him and say, did you sign up for the family hike? Did you know everybody's going to go sailing this weekend? It's just, he just is an outlier. I mean, that's just who he, but we have to accommodate. So part of the challenge in terms of doing things differently is, how do you accommodate the demographics? Something that the leadership's going to have to think about going forward. Keeping an eye on the time here. So here's another question for you. And it may apply to what would you like to see the league do differently. What's the one thing you'd like to see the league stop doing? Oh, I can tell there's going to be some good answers to this one. So again, at your tables, have a conversation, and I'll open the question up in a little bit. Okay, you should be seeing the question pop up on your device, and you can start inputting your responses to this. And after that initial laughter, I am kind of afraid of what I'm going to see. Whoa, I'm not sure what deprecating is, but that's all right. Oh, stop wasting trees. You'll see the word being big because I'm sure it's attached to some things. Being afraid, being boring, being clicky, being, So how do those words look to you? Stop having so much duplication. Reports. You don't want to stop reports? Oh. Yes, we got yeses and nos. Oh, this is going to be fun for your leadership to struggle with. I can tell you that right now. Paper. Ooh, conventions. I'm surprised about that when conventions is actually in there more than once. Repetitive reporting. Committees. My guess is there are probably, the word committees came in there. It's not to do away with all of them, but maybe you just have too many of them. I don't have control over that. The guys in the back have control over that. Can you turn me up a little bit, guys? Great. Whoa. Okay. So, it's interesting. Here's what's fascinating. Think about what the league should do, and there were a lot, but it was fairly, you guys are really good at being negative here. Look at the number of words on that screen. So you can tell there's a lot to wrestle with going forward in terms of the future. And it may be, no, we don't do away with all reports, but we'd find a way to streamline them, to make them shorter, to make them, I don't know about you, as the introduction said, I've served on a number of boards, and I serve on my church board right at the moment. I'm part of the United Church, so we do everything the democratic way, which is a committee for everything. And oh my goodness, and I belong to an old mainline church where somebody's been around, well, I joined 63 years ago, and this is the way we've always done it. Right? That never happens in your CWL meetings, never happens, at your provincial meeting. No, if there's one thing that just can, it's like I have to leave the room when somebody says that because I just want to go, but it's not 60 years ago. It's just not. So, but it is a challenge. We're always really good at being negative about things. However, it doesn't mean things shouldn't change. So these words and the things you've put in will help the leadership as they work on planning strategically look at what can we streamline? What should we be aware of? And as Dr. Beebe said, clicks came up in some of his stuff. Reports came up in some of his stuff. Because one of the other challenges, as a good colleague of mine, Glenn Tecker, says, what is perceived is. What is perceived is. Doesn't mean it's right, wrong, good, bad, it just is. And so if you are perceived as the knitting ladies, in my church it's the itty bitty nitty committee, the knitting ladies, the bake sale ladies, if that's the perception, there's things to work on. So we have another question for you. I'm checking the time, we're doing well. What does the League of the Future look like to you? That can be at the parish level, whatever level you want to say. What does it look like? What is it doing? How does it function? Who's in the room? These are going to be longer answers. Still, if you can keep it to a few words, we'd appreciate it. But have a conversation at your tables about what does the League of the Future look like to you? All right, I've opened up the question so you can put in your responses. Lacking membership. Wow, we have I think, for the most part, a room of optimists, a group of optimists responding. We got a few Debbie Downers in here. There are a few. We won't name names. But a lot about living your passion, living your spirituality and your mission, being mission and project driven, being multicultural and inclusive, being flexible, having clear priorities, whether that's locally in the parish level or at any other level, whatever it ends up looking like. Being willing to change. This is, this is where I would love to spend, and I actually have done this. I've actually engaged a group like this for an entire day around this question. It's pretty cool. The outcomes are pretty awesome. But this is why we need your input. This is why your executive board, your steering committee needs your input. So a few of you have found the question bar, the Q&A, social Q&A at the bottom. If you have questions about this, put them in there. But what are the next steps? My time is just about up, or I should say your time is just about up. So what happens next? The steering committee is going to gather this input. There's going to collate it, since a lot of the responses, there was some redundancy in there. So put all of that stuff together. You'll be hearing a report on that for the people who are not in the room. It'll be sent out. If you have further comments, longer comments than we can accommodate here, although some of you were rather verbose in some of those answers, please send them to info@cwl.ca, and Kim and her team will be pulling all those together and passing them on to the committee to consider in the conversation, in the dialogue about what CWL is, the direction and what it looks like going forward. So all of this will be forwarded to the steering committee and the executive board and included in that conversation about the future in planning strategically. You'll hear more about this over the next couple of days in terms of the output from this, what happened when the group met last week, and what the process is in terms of going forward. So it has been my pleasure to facilitate these conversations. I know you all could have had conversations that went on for the rest of the day at your tables. If there's one thing I've learned about CWL, is that talking comes naturally, and stopping talking does not come naturally. So with that, it's my pleasure to be part of the facilitation and part of this process with you, and I appreciate all of your time and your energy.
Wasn't this awesome? It was so exciting sitting up here watching all of you. And a few times we thought for sure when you were asked certain questions, you were rubbing your hands thinking, okay, here's my chance. And I can't wait to get back home and tell the younger generation what we were doing here. It is truly fitting that this would be happening here in PEI. We are making history. We are truly grateful to those who have paved the way for us and now have entrusted us to launch us into the future of the League. Thank you, Donna, for guiding us and in this process, and we look forward to those results. Thank you, Donna.